Shalom and welcome to another episode in our ongoing series called Faith Journeys with God in the Land. Today I'm actually standing right on the edge of the harbor at Caesarea. I think it's a safe statement to say that the Apostle Paul was the greatest missionary in the first century. The book of Acts records 3 primary missionary journeys, and maybe a fourth one after he arrived in Rome at the end of his life. Acts 13 to 14 records his first journey. At the end of his first journey, by the way, he sails into the harbor at Caesarea. I'm standing here right on the edge of the harbor. In fact, the green grass once was water. Today, it's of course grass, but you can see that some of these stones behind me, that one right behind my shoulder, was where the boats would have been tied. Now this harbor was a very impressive harbor, built by Herod the Great. He built this city between 22 and 10 BC. So the Apostle Paul, on his way to Jerusalem, sails into this harbor. Can you imagine that he sails right here, right behind me, where he goes to Jerusalem, and then his second journey begins. This is recorded in Acts 16 to 18, and then his third journey from chapter 18 to 21. Now at the end of chapter 21, it says that Paul sails again to this coastline of Israel. He harbors here in Caesarea, no doubt where I am standing now. In fact, take a look at these steps right there. These would have been steps used by people who would have docked their boats here in the harbor built by Herod the Great. And then Paul goes to Jerusalem. Paul then is under heavy guard when he comes to Caesarea. He's imprisoned here for about 2 years. And then he gives a very famous testimony. This is recorded in Acts chapter 26. In fact, Paul says that I hope that those listening to me would become Christians except for these chains. So Paul then, from this harbor, in fact, we're going to go over to the area of the Mediterranean where there is actual water today. And again, this green grass was once where water came up to in this harbor. By the way, when Paul and others would have sailed into this harbor, he would have seen a large, even up to 10-story high Temple of Augustus, who was honored here. But as we make our way over to the body of water called the Mediterranean, out there beyond my shoulder is one of the areas where even under the water today you can see the huge areas where the foundation of the harbor was located. In fact, what Herod the Great did is he had volcanic ash and he dropped them into big boxes, if you will, pylons. And that volcanic ash became very hard like cement, and that supported as the foundation of the harbor that, according to some, could at least house up to a couple hundred boats at a time. Paul sails in and out of this harbor a number of times as recorded in the Gospels. But then finally in Acts 26, after Paul gives his testimony, praying that everyone would become a Christian except for these chains, Paul then sails out of this harbor to Rome, where he would be again under house arrest, but yet the kingdom work did not end there. Just like Paul shared his faith here at Caesarea, he would continue his kingdom mission in sharing the good news of Christ. Paul endured many hardships in these 3 or 4 journeys, if you count the last one in Rome, as yet a separate opportunity to share the good news. Paul sailed out of this harbor, not knowing what to expect. In fact, the last time he sailed out it was on the way to Rome, and he had a shipwreck. He almost lost his life, and yet he was still faithful to the cause of the gospel in Rome as he would arrive there and then continue, at least for apparently a few more years before his death. So in our faith journey with Christ, we also face difficulties and challenges, uphill battles. When we launch into an opportunity of sharing the good news, sometimes that causes waves and maybe disagreements with people who we share the good news with. Or perhaps we share the good news with people who don't really care at all in our very postmodern, post-Christian culture. And yet Paul was faithful, and so are we to be as well. So I know we don't sail in and out of harbors like this like Paul did, but God gives us opportunities to share the good news. So in our faith journey with him here in the land, we remember and honor the great efforts and the diligence and the perseverance of Paul, who was faithful in sharing the kingdom news of Christ with lost people. So be encouraged in your walk of faith as you share your faith, as God gives you opportunities. May he grant you his grace and goodness and open doors for God to use you in redemptive ways. So be encouraged with these words, and until next time, shalom.